Good day, and happy, merry after Christmas. Last 2 Christmases have been weird, I'll just be blunt. 3 Christmases ago, my husband proposed. It was lovely. There's been a lot of passing away in our family and loss and processing, and the last few weeks have been so weird. I love my awareness of the metaphysical nature of the universe and reflective, projective nature, but it's still not fun to be human sometimes. Like, I made this catch-up video a couple days ago, actually, and I was going to post it, but I was rewatching it, and I did the funniest things. There are 2 spots on the video where I literally am talking about a concept and take the exact opposite action while I'm discussing the topic. And I know I'm not some kind of evolved guru, but still, witnessing your own stupid blind spots like that, I hate being human. And it just comes back to the point that we're all hypocrites. It's like, I love my family, but today someone in my family was actually haughtily laughing that a liberal was considering, Trump didn't deserve to take office because of something with the vote. And regardless of the details of that, what was so interesting is this particular family member was very on board with the vote last time with Trump being wrong. And, this whole time we've had a false president and blah, 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 blah. And I thought it was so interesting. I couldn't even help myself. I was just like, but you believed that the last election was false. So don't your countrymen have the right to think this one is when you actually expect that? Well, that one was false. And this one is true. Well, this person might believe the same thing at the same strength. Wouldn't that... It's interesting because people don't even allow for the possibility of someone else to be right because they're so committed to being right. But this is the fascinating thing about being human. We are all right about how we have it. And we are all wrong about how everyone else has it. And that is really weird and really frustrating because similar to how we think one can't be many and the many can't be one, because these are like concepts that don't really work for our minds, right? We can't accept that we could be right about something and also wrong about it. It's not the same topic, mind you, but we think it is because we think when we have a certain perspective on something, like a political view or any type of view, whether we like it hot or cold, or beverages hot or cold, or food hot or cold, or spicy or not, or on and on and on and on, right? Whether you like the smell of lavender or citrus, whether you like a fake tree in your home or a real pine tree or no tree at Christmas, or you don't even celebrate it. There's so many different shades, but we think that when we believe something about something, everyone else is supposed to perceive it that way. That because we are right about how we have it, that rightness for us should also feel right to everyone else in the same way. Better put, right? Right? No, wrong. It's very wrong. We cannot, or we have not focused on resolving that what is right for us is not right for everyone else. That our boundaries of what is right for action and belief ends with us. That's it. And we hate that. It's such an interesting... We want to take what we have found to be right through our own personal journey and preferences and pain and struggle and happiness or whatever, and we want to say, everyone's supposed to have this. And that's actually the opposite of the point of the journey. That's the opposite. I hate to break it to you, but the point is to realize no one else is your business. What everyone else is doing is not your business. And you'll feel it, like some people, especially Christians. And I love Christians. I am one. With a slightly different twist. Like, I'm a Christian with a twist, It's kind of like a martini with, an extra blue cheese olive or 5. That's and a twist. Then we're talking meat. However, Christians will be like, well, we have to be able to tell other people how to live. Why? We get to an interesting point here, right? It's because people can't decide for themselves. They're innately bad. That's what we'll get to at that root cause conversation. And how come you're not? How come your rightness? Oh, because you believe in the God that has decided that this is on the side of right. what will happen is you become in sort of the circular reasoning of where rightness comes from. When all religious teaching, spiritual teaching at its inception will tell you that truth comes from within. The kingdom of God is within, not without. You are never, ever in any holy book directed to look at a pulpit, a governmental body, a position. I mean, we've certainly developed that on the back end. Don't get me wrong. We love to rope in, even in modern times, our monarchy, king, queen type of thing into courtrooms, judges, into Catholic churches, right? They all look the same. Have you noticed? Is it a pew? Is it a jury box? I don't know. Why does it all look the same? Does this not freak anyone out? Also tends to look like a throne room. Those went out a while ago. Now, you could say, well, this has to do with the references in the Bible. Does talk a lot about kings and kingdoms. But again, let's go back to what I said before. Where is the kingdom? Within. Kingdom of heaven is within. The kingdom of heaven is within. The Bible is about the kings, foolish kings, wise kings, and the way they manage their kingdom, which is within. It's not about actual kings running kingdoms. It's an allegory for you and how you're managing your heart, your soul, and your life. And I've been out there with people, let me tell you. Here's the thing about becoming famous that I'm just going to throw out. So a little while ago, I was starting to pick up some momentum. I wasn't famous, mind you, but I dipped a toe in the water in a small community. And I said, one thing that happens when people have you on a pedestal is you cannot be in relationship with them. You do not get like the real story. And I think over the last few years, I've really been with people in a different way. Like, I went ahead and I don't step off of pedestals. I throw myself and break the pedestal in the process. And the whole throne room it was contained in. And, I have a whole crash and burn thing I do. It's great. It's like it's a hero's allegory, actually, on the hero's journey. Have you ever noticed how often when the hero's really starting to kick off or whatever, like they always drop a grenade and beat something massive of the dark side, but they always blow it up from within. Have you ever noticed? Death Star. I mean, Luke had to go hit that thing that was like, this big inside that blew the whole thing up from within. He does that with those cool 4 walker thingies too, those big robot thingies. He throws the grenade in, blows up from the inside. We could go on a long time about the allegory there. But when you are outside of something speaking about it, it's very difficult to be with the people inside suffering from it. And the last few years, I've really been with people. I made sure to take myself off the pedestal and be completely, really invisible. In other words, average American human. As average as I could get to be with people. And I got to tell you guys, and there's something interesting that happens here, because at first it's going to sound like judgment, so bear with me, but the hearts of the people are not well. In the vulnerable positions that I've been with people in relationship with very vulnerable people. And before it was overseas. So the first part of my career, a lot of the vulnerable people I was in relationship were on other lands, right? Other countries, other territories, India, China, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Brazil, Somalia, areas for manufacturing of marginalized, potentially vulnerable populations. And I'm going to be the arm of protecting them. What I learned was a complete load of crap. But I also learned a lot about the conversation, why it is the way it is, and some of the very tricky pieces of it, that even if horrific, oppressive business comes into a country, it can be actually preferable for the citizens than living without the oppression. And there's just really difficult conversations. A child would rather work if his family is starving than be told he needs to go to school. He won't go to school. He'll go get a job in another factory that's much worse, that allows children, that doesn't get audited. And, I could go on and on about this and all the reasons I stepped out of it. But that was all on other shores. And then over the last few years, I ended up in a very, like I said, normal, average position just to be with people on this country, in this country. And I didn't know I was stepping into a whole class system that exists in our country and really working alongside many vulnerable people who are really the elderly, our retirees and our children, or the young people in our society working in retail. And the way they're exploited, it blew my mind. It has absolutely blown my mind over the last few years. And I championed people and I tried to do all this to make it better. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do anything to make this better. This is the way it is. And I remember being in China, mind you, right, with people who have grown up in a communist country that would look at me and be like, Emily, and I was careful. I didn't push the needle too far. I mean, I'm managing a team of, Chinese women, and I'm there as an American. I'm not going to be talking like, women's lib and feminism. I moved to Italy when I was 11. I've lived all around the world since I was young. I've engaged with all different types of cultures because my dad was really like a sort of diplomatic ambassador type function at NATO. So I'm not here to steamroll people's cultures and make them American. Okay, let me just put it that way. I'm not going to be a social justice warrior like that. However, I am going to look for opportunities for conversation in new ways that work within someone's framework. So they would always tell me, Emily, this is just the way it is. You can't. And when they were coaching me, like things I would get upset with that my team would see, for example, I tried to hide a lot of it. But my leadership, for example, overseas. So if I went there as the white American, mind you, my drivers, I was always driven everywhere. I always had translators. Everyone was always nice. There was always fresh water. It took me going for a few years or a little while, multiple trips, building trust to learn that was not the reality for my team members over there, that sometimes the drivers would drop them off after a long day at a factory in the middle of nowhere and they would have to pay for a cab fare to get home. And the leadership wouldn't approve their expense report. And it would be like the equivalent of $50 when they only get paid $300 a month. Things of that nature would upset me. So of course I would cover as many of those expenses as I could when I was there, put it on my American expense report, which of course was always approved and paid without any intensive review. Class systems, right? Global class systems that you're aware of, and you can make an impact, but only so much. And so coming here, I was shocked really that this was the case. And I had to have my Chinese communist team members tell me, Emily, this is just the way it is and you've got to accept it. And me thinking, oh, I'm a capitalistic American. I don't see things that way. I see that we can always make things better, man. Yeah. Bullshit. Idealistic, like, I love my heart, don't get me wrong. However, when I really realized what was going on, I pulled out of that industry. Now I'm back in the US and now I realize they're saying the same thing to me on this shore. In America, Emily, this is just the way it is. Can't make it any better. This isn't a communist country, no. But this is the vulnerable populations of the American country telling me this in an industry where oppression and discrimination and retaliation and really viper-esque preying on the vulnerable is standard. It's standard in retail. It's just the way it is. So anyway, so I had to see other people be victimized, right? And I champion them, and I get to feel all, hero-y and, oh, go Emily, you champion people, and then you quit because, it was a chip on my shoulder better than that. Well, walk into, and it's not what it's about. I'm being hard on myself there. I really did care. I really did try. And I really was willing to take a hit on the chin financially and professionally to stand up for people, because I'm not going to lead for a company that has no ethics like that. If you are willing to support people's behavior in executive level positions that are preying on vulnerable people and discriminating against them and being vengeful and making it their personal playground for, whoever didn't treat them nice on the playground, I'm not down. I don't care if you're discriminating against a woman, a colored woman, a colored man, or a white man. And I had to come up against that. Populations I've defended before in my life were not white men. They were generally oppressed by the white man. But then I ended up in a retail environment where actually the white man was the victim. And let me tell you, it takes a lot for me to say that, but they were. And I had to look at myself and say, okay, do I hold discrimination as a line or just when it's trendy, right? Because everyone else was telling me, well, Emily, that's white man, screw them. Right? Who cares if their rights are being violated in this environment? They're violating everyone else's everywhere else, but not these guys. See, that's the problem. And I think women should be called to a higher standard. We're capable of more. Why are we being so vengeful and just swinging that pendulum right into their face? But hilariously, right? So I championed white men. the one woman, I could have gotten promoted in that environment because I had a vagina. It was a total leg up. But I hate accolades for something that I was born with. I don't like empty accolades for my looks. I didn't design them. I came this way. My brain, because I'm so smart, I have an insane processing unit for a brain. It has always been that way. I put no effort. I don't deserve some accolades for being a great test taker. My brain does it. I was born this way. Now, maybe I created it before I came. You could come into some conversation about that, about my eternal, ancient, spiritual badassery. But none of that we know about. We don't know any of that. So we're just going to go with, I didn't create my looks, I didn't create my brain, and I didn't create my gender. So I don't like freebies for those things. Give me something of substance about me that speaks to my capability and worth that I have added, my consciousness. It's utilizing these tools and skills, but that's what I want. I want acknowledgement based on merit. I want promotion based on merit. So anyway, leave that alone, right? So I champion the white man, totally screw myself, whatever. Go back to white man's environment for work, thinking I'm so relieved to not be around women anymore. I'm around guys. This is a more fair environment. And I became a victim. So from all these different levels of championing, like retaliation, marginalized populations, people in situations where you're asking them to report on retaliation or illegal behavior, and now I'm the victim of it. And do you think any white men in this environment championed me? Yes, I got a bit of a lump of truth around that. That being said, I see now why being the victim was really important. When you're a champion, they say, for others, they would say to me, Emily, the victim needs to speak for themselves. There's only so much you can do as a champion. And they're right. But there was something about pulling it in, because everything is projection. And as long as I'm championing someone else or trying to rescue someone else, I'm trying to rescue myself in some weird alternate way. So at least we got that more real, rather than trying to rescue someone else. There's something around me trying to rescue myself that didn't get done maybe a while ago, a lack of trust, something that needed to be pulled in. And I got that. I have enough metaphysical knowledge to get that. Okay, let's pull this in. Let's make this my crisis, because I don't want to be a victim. And there's a lot of reasons I don't want to be a victim. There are some really sound spiritual reasons I don't want to be a victim. However, in order to move past something, I've learned you kind of have to accept it and let it in. Even if it's for a few brief moments, let it happen. It's the last few weeks, it's been let yourself be a victim, Emily. You just are. You didn't do anything in this case to draw this on. And at the same time, I have the metaphysical understanding enough. I'm not a whiz or anything like that, but I know enough to say, I don't want to hold vengeance in my heart. If I'm a victim to something, I somehow brought it on. I somehow have a thinking in me that causes this. And as I've passed through it, I sort of become my own champion through the process of experiencing really victimization, by really bringing it in. I sort of, I think, brought the two ends of the stick together, the victim and the champion. And in the victim position, sort of able to access my champion and realize this doesn't have to be about them being wrong or me being wrong or I got to overcome, or this can just be about, I can walk through the experience of being picked on, spit on, cast out, made wrong, lied about, have a whole group of people lie about me, but I can still know who I am. And I can still give the situation to the Holy Spirit and say, I want the situation to work out for the best for everyone. Myself included, absolutely. I have a lot on the line. I'm going to lose my job. Did lose my job. Got to find a new one. Need a big new source of income. I could get all panicked, and instead I'm going to say, no, this is beauty becoming. I'm launching a business. I'm becoming a coach. I've completely shifted in the last year. Yeah, this Christmas was interesting. Feeling small, feeling crazy, being made to be so wrong. And I think I'm up against, I really saw this sort of cycle of a very old cycle for me, probably much earlier than this, but the point I really remember it kicking off when I was 25 or 24, 25, I was drugged, raped by two men, found in my car, and arrested for a DUI. Big difficult, hard, obviously, and had other things going on to even attract that kind of situation. But what made it so much worse was when I realized what had happened to me, because I didn't know at first when they arrested me. I was roofied out. I had no idea who I was, where I was, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. You think they'd be trained. When I realized what had happened and I told it, the cops and everyone, and I thought they'd be like, oh my God, I thought Law and Order SVU was going to show up. No. They all laughed at me and said, you're obviously making that up because you got arrested for a DUI and won out of the DUI. And even my male friends, which were really all I had at the time, which wasn't good, said the same thing and accused me of the same thing. And the lack of people believing me, regardless of the justice outcome, was the most painful part. And I think I had a lot of that probably in my teens. So it's probably triggering an old thing. And then here we are again, something where a whole group of people are lying about me. And it's really obvious if you know the business and like, guys, this is stupid. If anyone who has any idea about retail management heard like what happened here, it'd be anyway. But it was that same thing. Like, people don't believe me. I'm being made wrong when I'm a victim. And something this time has become very clear to me, that I'm in this environment to get a piece of my soul back. Carolyn Meese always says that, like, when you come to Earth, your soul's split and you're kind of on this journey to get pieces of your soul back. And I'm not saying that's the case. It's just a great visualization or tool for me where I say, there was something I really needed there, and it was really hard to work through, and I really did not enjoy it. In the process, my body had some, I've had some panic attacks actually over the last few weeks. I haven't had that issue in 10 years, but I'm not getting all involved in it. I'm like, you know what? That's a physiological body issue. I don't have to make this some kind of, I've been through enough to know I'm not crazy, and I can calm my nervous system down. Like, my heart and my soul are in a good place because I was in integrity. Not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, and I can make people really upset, but I would have been available for conversation. I was honest, and I was in integrity, and I did a good job. I did everything that the company would ask me to do and be in integrity, and it still wasn't handled in integrity, and so I felt an integrity leaving. But I realized that I found my own champion, not for somebody else, which is so much easier to champion someone else. It's hard when the heat's coming for you to say, I'm not wrong. For me, I always assume when people are mad at me that they're right and that I did something wrong. It's kind of this interesting thing I have. I realize most people aren't that way. Most people, when you tell them they did something wrong, get defensive and say, I did it. For me, I'm almost like, oh, I did that. And I have to wait a day to go, wait a minute, I didn't do that. Sorry, these are bouncing all over the place. It's kind of annoying. I'll stop bebopping my head. But I think, of course, me doing that, probably if I watch this video back, I'll see that coincides with something I'm talking about. I see now that as long as we feel this, it's not innocence, it's sort of this guiltlessness, but knowingness of who we are and that come from is good, and there's a different foundation, and I'm developing an understanding of God being in everything and God being good and always on my side, and there's so much goodness on our side that there's no reason to fear at all, except when we feel guilty or think we did something wrong and deserve to be punished, which is how I've lived most of my life. And there was something about this event, where even though I should have feeling bad, more amplified than ever, because clearly my leadership was all angry at me. I mean, 4 out of 5 executive leaders. And for someone like me whose bosses usually love them, that's like a worst case scenario. I work hard to make sure that my bosses are happy. But as I've realized that this was sort of a people-pleasing thing and my integrity is more important to me, I think I can find leaders where I can be in integrity and do great business. But this wasn't that environment. And so am I going to hold the line? Well, we already know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to hold the line of lack of integrity so they'll like me. I blew the whole thing sky wide open. Because once you realize, that's the thing, anyone who says they don't people please is the worst kind of people pleaser. The only people who are getting close to not people pleasing are talking about it and saying that they do it. And this is where America has to begin to realize, like, The people who admit to doing something are the ones who are moving beyond it. The people who claim they aren't even in the conversation. Like, they've lied to themselves so much. Their people pleasing is so big, they don't even know that they've hidden it from themselves, as they should do if that's what they want to keep doing. Only people like me that don't want to keep doing it are going to pull it into the light and be like, weird, why do we all do that? And then people will be like, I don't do that. Really? I think you should get out your camera and film yourself for a little while. Talk about something. Look into your own eyes. See what you see. And if you can't even do it for 5 or 10 seconds, then let me tell you, you are resistant to you. And you can do nothing in life, nothing, until you can look in a camera in your own eyes and say something that's meaningful to you and believe it. Because what you're going to see when you watch the camera, let me just tell you at first, you're going to see that you're full of shit. That's the first thing you see when you watch it back. You're like, I'm so inauthentic. And there's a lot of reasons for that at first. You're really uncomfortable on camera at first. So of course it's exaggerated, but you have to be willing to look at you and go, what is it about me that is unnatural, that I'm reading is inauthentic? And that's probably in other places. And how do I feel about that? And can I face myself? Can you look in the mirror and look yourself in the eye and be like, I love you? Can you look into a camera or a mirror? You could do either, but you really need to play it back. I gotta tell you, I really do the videos to play it back because you learn so much more about yourself. I have no doubt someone could watch this video and pinpoint areas that you can see where I'm incongruent. However, I invite anyone who feels that way about me to make sure they do it to themselves, because I am not perfect, but I'm in the conversation and I have come a long way because I am willing to watch myself back, and I am willing to watch it again and again and go, God, I am willing to screw up again and again. And I'm willing to look at why and let's try to change it. And I succeed. The only reason I haven't really been in the eyes of the world the last 5 years was very purposeful. I wanted to get rid of my career because it had become a part of my ego and identity that was ugly. And it does. It will anyone. I don't care who you are. And I have girlfriends that are now getting promoted and moving up and like having the kids and the mom chip on your shoulder and the executive chip on your shoulder. And the thing is, it doesn't make you wrong, but it confuses you about who you really are. And when I got that stuff early on, for some reason, I knew it was hollow and I knew it was a distraction. I knew it was nothing. Even though everyone was telling me I was finally becoming something. And it was so confusing and weird because they're like, wow, you're getting somewhere. And I'm like, I feel worse than ever. And I've been homeless and in rehab and recovering from addiction, but that was real. There was something real in that. There was something substantial in my relationships, in my relationship with life, in my relationship with God. And then you get all this stuff and the fancy job and you look so cool and you're spending, $80 a week on juice and getting your nails done and your hair done. And you're so far away from your life in some ways. And it looks fancy and people look up to you and people are always telling you how smart you are and awesome you are. And of course, then it'd be like easy to book coaching clients because everybody wants accolades in the world. But as it says right here, from the Sermon on the Mount, treasures in heaven, right? And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. And I love you guys. I love everybody. But the reward for being, because I have a career or the way I look or things, again, that aren't of substance, was hollow. And I do not want to continue to replicate, or there's plenty of other people. There's plenty, everybody else. You don't need that. But I don't want to continue to perpetuate illusion. There's nothing in it. I don't know what to tell you guys. You're going to get rich, you're going to be important, and then you're going to die on your deathbed and go, I missed the point. I don't know what to tell you. I've watched it happen. And that's one reason it's been so amazing over the last years to see that, to watch people meet their death and go, I missed the point. It's rough. but I've done it now multiple times. And money makes it harder. But it's not that lack of money means you're going to get there. Because most of the people who die with lack of money just wanted more money. Or really focused on the lack of it and missed the point. So I don't want to perpetuate the illusion that there's anything substantial to the hollow rewards of other men's accolades or riches in your bank account. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you have to choose first. You have to, and that's what I realized. I was living this hollow life and I kind of pulled down this whole kind of house of cards. Of course, it seemed so much more solid than it was. And you go, what was that? What was in that was substantial? My love for my stepson. That was substantial. I loved my stepson and he loved me. That was real. And my dog. And I could only leave with one. I realized that the basis for that life was wrong because I got the things to make it seem like I was okay, or I got the good career and had to catch up and, do the things everyone else was doing, but I did it with good intention. I thought it would satisfy me because that's what everyone told me. Get the job, get the career, get the good income, get the career guy who's got the good income. Now you guys both have a good income. Great. Well, the rent's taken care of. Everything else is a shit show, but the rent we got. Oh, and it's right across from the beach. Look at this view. If only the view in here was as satisfying. And I realized somewhere in there that everything had been created to get somewhere, especially material wealth. But I had no idea about happiness. None of it was created from joy or happiness because I didn't know what mine was. I've been so focused on helping everyone find theirs. And not by ill intent. It just happened. It's not anybody's fault. So I took the whole thing down and started over. And I started from scratch, away from anyone's perspective or judgmental eye, really. I started from scratch with the earth, with my family, with chicken poop and garden and outside and family. We didn't even really get along that well, but it worked out great. And now I'm building something with a different kind of foundation and basis, a different level of accountability and authenticity, a different level of innocence, guiltlessness, and an understanding why those things lead to invulnerability and why a loving God would only ever create his loving creation as pure, never bad. When we ate from the tree of good and evil, we took on knowledge that God didn't have. That was the warning. You are a creative element. If you want to add murder and death to your knowledge base, look out for what you are going to create. But if you stay pure and know that nothing can get you because of your innocence, well, we're returning to that. Onwards and upwards. I love you. Happy New Year. I'll post something else before the New Year, don't worry.